It is Monday, June 17th, 2019, and this is the MMA Hour, everyone. Welcome. My name is Luke Thomas. I am the host of this program. Thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. Let's see, fun show planned today. We're going to recap all the action from Bellator 222, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. To help us do that at 1 o'clock, he was the big winner in the Aaron Pico fight. Adam Borics will be here. Just prior to that, to talk about the news that he is now going to be training with Faraz Zahabi. I found this very interesting. Kevin Lee, UFC lightweight turned welterweight, will be here. Plus, you will be my guest. Not one, two different ways, as always. First with the tweets. When a round of tweets happens with the hashtag #TheMMAHour, keep sending those, please. I always appreciate it when you do. And as well, and in particular today, we're going to have a nice long segment on your calls on the sound off. 844-866-2468. So, and by the way, international callers, the MMA Hour at voxmedia.com. Okay. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Happy Father's Day, belatedly to everyone. I had my first Father's Day as a father. Got to tell you, it's pretty fun. At least it was for me. So I want to thank my family for taking care of me. I hope your family took care of you. I hope you guys were thanking all the dads out there. But let's put that aside. Let's turn the page. Let's talk about what happened on Friday night, Bellator 222. Let's kick it off with our YouTube exclusive portion of the program where we recap and analyze the action. Time for the Monday Morning Analyst. All right, donks and donkettes, welcome to the show today. All right, let's get right into it. So Bellator 222 was interesting for a lot of different reasons. Kind of struggled on this one. I thought maybe I'll go over to the Rory stuff because I thought some of his defense was pretty good, but in the end, it's not the direction I wanted to go. What was the biggest news coming out of the weekend from Bellator 222? Depends on your perspective. Could be Koji Horiguchi. That's a decent choice. Maybe Chael Sonnen's retirement. That's another one, the main event. But I want to focus on Aaron Pico. Found this one very, very interesting. Frustrating, but interesting. Aaron Pico, who has been heralded as the greatest prospect in MMA history, is now a nearly 500 fighter. It does not need to be this way. I went back and I watched this fight and some of his other fights as well. Let me start by saying a couple of things about him. Number one, people have said, oh, the real issue here is his chin. This happens every time someone takes a tremendous shot, and that is it's not that it couldn't be at all true, but it's a really lazy explanation that is probably only partly explanatory. Moreover, if you go back and look at some of the shots he took, the uncontested right hand that he did not see coming from Henry Corrales, or the uppercut from in his first fight, or in this one, this flying knee, these are shots that if they were not contested or you didn't roll with them, you didn't see them, they would put down most people, right? Most people in that weight class. So this idea, like people said the exact same thing about Sage after he got floored by Cosmo Alexandre, and it turns out he got his face shattered. Like it's a ridiculous idea. Again, it's not to say that there's, in terms of Sage being a ridiculous idea. In the case of Aaron Pico, maybe by this point, he has sustained enough damage where that's a reasonable concern, but I find it a total oversimplification. It's the first one. Secondly, I've heard people say he's just not going to make it. He's shot. Now, here's the reality. I don't know if he's going to make it. I don't know if Sage is going to make it. My hunch is probably not, to be quite honest with you. But what's the reality? The reality is I don't know. I don't make those decisions. You don't make those decisions either. Only they do. Only they really know. And it's not about proving me right or wrong or proving you right or wrong. It's about whether or not they can make the necessary changes to further nurture their development to get to a point where they can compete against the elite consistently. That's really the issue. And to me, when I look at what happened with Aaron Pico over the weekend, I don't think the chin is the best explanation. I don't think that he's shot. I don't think it's the team, because he's been with Body Shop, AKA, and now Jackson's. Like, it's not really the issue. The issue to me is that they have tried to fast-track a development that is not ready to be fast-tracked at all. And maybe that's partly Aaron's fault. Maybe that's partly his team's fault. Maybe that's the promoter's fault. Maybe it's a combination of all of them. I don't know. I'm not there in his camp. I can only watch from the outside and make some assessments. But to me, when I went back and I watched this fight, everyone was like, oh, he was doing so well in the wrestling department. Sort of. Let's go to the slide here if we can. This is what I like to call the Aaron Pico project. What's wrong and how to fix it. All right. I still believe that we have enough information to conclude it is possible. How likely? I don't know. Is it still possible for him to become something great? I would submit to you that it is. I am not prepared to close the door. But unless some serious changes are made, it will not happen. That is just a reality. Okay? So, I'm not in his camp. I don't have a real granular perspective. As always, what I'm about to say should be taken with a grain of salt. I encourage you to go listen to what other analysts have to say. This is not the best analysis or the most complete or the only analysis. It is mine. I intend to make some evidence-based claims about it, but again, take it for what it's worth. Okay. What is the way back to redemption? Number one, you have got to dial back the opposition. People were saying, he's got 7 fights at this point. This was the first time in 7 fights he went past the second round. He went against a guy with significant amateur experience, a significant kickboxing experience, at least relative to him, and had 23 rounds of experience before fighting Aaron Pico, including but not limited to a 5-round fight that went into the 4th round. Much more experience. Look at his first fight, a guy who had, an enormous amount more. Even in the Leandro Ego fight, he fought a guy with way more experience. Now that one went his way. Okay, when Pico is performing at his upper bound ability, he's nasty. But to get to your consistent upper bound ability, that requires a little bit of work. And so to me, first step is you got to go back to the Shane Crutchins of the world. I mean, don't disrespect, but somebody he's clearly better than. 1, to build up his confidence. And 2, I made this point on my personal post-fight special, which is fighters of the world, you should seriously consider signing, if you're an elite talent, with a small promotion before going to the big one. Bellator is probably better than the UFC for this, but Bellator is not situated to do what a regional scene generally can do. Yes, they can give you somebody who's tailor-made for you. By the way, why is Aaron Pico fighting tougher fights than Dylan Dennis? To me, it's just crazy that that's the case. But the point being is, it's not just that. You get to make mistakes with less visibility and with less cost because your opponent is probably not going to be as able to take advantage of them. By the way, go look at the regional scene. Those guys will take 6, 7 fights in a year over a year because they can get a bunch of experience all at once by going on different shows. When you're on the Bellator schedule, you're on a much more developed timeline that somebody like an Aaron Pico or a Valerie Lareda or a Dylan Dennis is probably not optimal for. That doesn't mean that they can't make it. I'm not sure that's the best case scenario for them. But in the case of Aaron Pico, you got to dial that back, man. Let's start giving him people like, why was Greg Hardy fighting Dmitry Simolikov? Well, now you see why Greg Hardy is fighting Dmitry Simolikov. I said it when Valerie Lareda fought the Hooters girl, or I know she's more than that, but that's how she was known. Darkin Lash, or whatever her name was. Larkin Dash, excuse me. You want to be fighting people who are well beneath your level early on because it's about getting reps, it's about getting enough walkouts, it's about getting in shape, it's about learning what your game is, it's about applying it through a consistent number of times, even if the fights are short. Yes, eventually you have to step up, but those are the kind of fights that when you're 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, maybe even 4-0, that's what you want to get. When you get to that 5 mark, that's when you can begin to escalate it if everything has gone right first. Well, everything has not gone right. It's gone way wrong. Time to dial it back. Give him somebody he can beat. That doesn't mean you do that forever. It just means you do that for the next few of these to get the train on the tracks again. So he can apply a game plan. He can apply a meta game plan, which we'll get to in just a second. He can apply himself. He can get another camp in. He can get all the different pieces of the fine details put together. And when that becomes second nature, then you escalate. But right now, whoever has been making the decisions about matchmaking, and I don't know who that is, they have royally botched it. And there's just no other way to say it. There is no good explanation, not one, for him being 4-3 other than the people who have been in charge, and maybe that's Aaron himself, about matchmaking have botched it. Okay? 2, finesse control issues. We're going to look at the slides here in just a minute. I went back and I looked at this. What's the most amount of takedowns that Nurmagomedov has ever had in a single round? The answer is 3. Now, you can go look at Fight Metric and look at the Abel Trujillo fight, and in there it'll be like 8 and 9. Those were not takedowns. Those were mat returns. Remember last week when we talked about Henry Cejudo, and I talked about the bloody elbow rider who no longer writes in MMA named Mike Reardon, who wrestled Division I at the Citadel? He went through and broke that down in a famous article on that site at the time. I love Fight Metric, but that's one thing I think they kind of got wrong. A mat return is not a takedown. So really, the actuality is in the RDA fight and in the first round of the Iaquinta fight, he got 3 takedowns. In every other fight, it's 1, maybe 2. Do you know why? Because when Khabib gets you down, bro, you stay down for the most part. For the most part, he gets a hold of you, he gets on top, it is a wrap for you for that round if you don't get finished. Why? Because takedowns are one skill, controlling someone on the ground, totally different. I actually liked his takedowns. I thought they were really good. Did not like the control issues. They are putting a game plan in place for this guy that he's not prepared to execute against this level of opposition. 3, the metagame issues. What does metagame mean? There's a lot of different explanations for it, a lot of different ways to understand it. Understand it this way. I don't see enough of him of getting his opponent to think something about him by trickery and then doing something the opposite. I see a lot of just repetitive attack over and over of the same variety. Now, there can be a little bit of trickery in each individual attempt, but not enough overall. He doesn't have opponents thinking he's doing something else, and then he goes, thinking that they're going to go left, and he goes right. That's not what it is. They just realize it's the same kind of thing over and over. That's why he lost in the Corrales fight, and that's why he lost in this fight. The first one, rookie mistake, right? What are you going to do? But those other two, there was no trickery to it at all. There was no sleight of hand. There was no, I'm going to get Corrales to think about one thing, then do the opposite. None of that. And so as a consequence, the game becomes much more easy to assess. 4, savagery gauge issues. This is my personal belief. In the ego fight, in the Corrales fight, bro, he's digging to the body. He's got phenomenal body punching. I love that little shovel punch that he hit on Borics early. But when he got on top for the control, because there were some control issues, there was no ground and pound. Not hardly. A little bit here and there, not much. We're going to take a look at the first round of Nurmagomedov and McGregor. You're going to see the difference. You're going to see the difference between what a master technician with the right metagame and the right control issues can do versus somebody who's been tasked with a responsibility that against this level of opposition, they're simply not up to the task for at this moment. Again, do I think he can get there? I absolutely think he can get there. And then lastly, weight class issues. Now, this one I'm less convinced by, but his opponent, who will be on the show later, Adam Borics, thinks he should drop down to bantamweight. Don't know if that's a real one. I kind of put that one in there at the last for a reason, but it's something I would consider. If the issue is that he is trying to attack bigger men and he can safely make 135, which I realize there's a problem here, or could be, then no, that's not that. Now, I want you to understand something. If I thought that Aaron Pico was a lost cause, I would not have written any of these things. I would not have included any of these things. I would not even wasted my time with it. I still believe in Aaron Pico. I just believe the situation has not been handled well. And I believe that there is still time to get it right. This is not an attack on Aaron Pico. This is an attack on the way he's been handled. Well, it's a criticism anyway, of the way he's been handled up to this point. I think he still has so much potential. Let's put him on a track to get the most out of him. And look, if he wins and loses there, then hey, that's the reality. But I would at least like to get the most out of him before we decide to make a call on him. I don't want to make a call on a kid this young when I know we're not maximizing his potential. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these slides, if we can here. I want you to pay attention to something. This is the opening part of the first round. This takedown is excellent. I love just about everything about it, right? So he gets in close. Look at him level changing. This is great. He comes in, fakes low. He gets timed a little bit here because there could have been a little bit better, but okay, whatever. I mean, he's fighting a tough fighter. And then he nails him with this. He comes underneath the hook in anticipation and nails him with this shovel punch. This is one of his best punches. Love it. Love everything about it. Getting hit in the face was not great, but generally speaking, there's a lot to like there. And he backs out quickly, right? Bop, bop, and he's out the door. You can exit to the side or you can back out. So I like that. Then he comes in, he fakes again with a jab, gets low underneath it, gets the takedown. Borics does the right thing, doesn't want to get back up against the fence, so he sprawls at an angle. He turns, which I like, except you're dealing with a bulldozer here. He pushes him back into the fence, right? Goes for, let's see, he tries to go for a high crotch here. It looks like maybe even a single leg. Switches after this, right? Brings his hand around. Now Borics is behind. Look here. Borics is behind the arm. before he was in front, right? Well, hold on. Before he was here. You see that? And then he came over the top. Now he's behind, which, by the way, was a mistake on Boric's part. So now he just switches, gets behind. Now watch this takedown. I love this. Gets up underneath him. So he turns him this direction. Boric sprawls. So what does he do? He turns him another direction. He changes directions twice. Good wrestling. Great wrestling. Love everything I saw there. Again, hit in the face once with the counter, whatever. That was great. This is what I'm talking about. Like, build off of that. Okay? That was phenomenal. Here's where the problem starts. We're going to look at what Khabib does a little bit later. He is trying a strategy where he wants to take him down against the fence. In order to exact this strategy the particular right way, you have to know this position extremely well, which means you need to be using your legs to fish out theirs constantly. And the whole idea is to fish them out, rotate them off the cage, flatten them, pass, move to mount, or whatever. Take the back. That's what you're essentially trying to do here. So the longer his back is against the fence, problem. The longer that he's not getting scooped, problem. The longer he's able to turn his hips over, problem. Those are all the problems. So to do this, man, there are so many things you have to do. One, you have to be scooping constantly scooping. If you lose one, you let go of both and re-scoop again. You have to change directions constantly on this, right? You'll see Khabib do it. Masterclass, over and over, switching directions, trying to get your back flat off the mat. You have to be hand fighting. On the occasion when it's relevant, you have to be doing cross-facing. On top of that, you got to be tripoding high so your weight can go. One thing you see missing a lot, he doesn't use his head as a post in this position. Khabib is mauling you with his head. He is driving that thing into your face. I remember the first time I did head drills with like where you have to get face to face with another dude. You have to be whoever wins, the ramming head battle. I left the next day, looked like I had been attacked by a lion. My face was completely shredded, right? You got to get up in there on that thing, right? So he's got a lot of, like, it reminds me of the Darian Caldwell fight, right? Where you're just wrestling. Hey, all right, you got your two. You got your two for the takedown. Now what? Controlling is a separate issue from wrestling. They tasked with a responsibility to control here against an opponent too high level for his current level of ability to effectively execute, right? So that's one problem. So watch. Let's just pay attention here. So he's going to scoop. This is fine. Yep, you can see here he's going to scoop. Pay attention to the head. Is the head doing anything? Right? Can't quite get it. Now he turns him this direction. That's fine. All right, we're getting there. Let's see him scoop, right? Here comes the scoop, but it's a little shallow of a scoop. And he's got the arm kind of holding position. Let's see if he can get it, right? A little bit he gets it. Okay. All right, now you can go flat. Once you scoop, then you can go flat. But before, you need to be high in the air on the tripod. Here's another problem. He's not fighting the hand, so you can get the hand post. Now, if you didn't have this scooped and someone's posting on the hand, you can actually just jump to the other side on like a pass, and it works really well. But if you're scooped like this and they can push and you're not hand fighting, you're not up on the grill, right? You're a little bit low on the back, which is fine. There's just a lot of different problems. So this is what I mean. You have to know the ins and outs of this position. By the way, I do not, but I know what Khabib does, and you can just tell that there's a difference between them, right? So look at this. He's pushing him away. Look at the separation of his hips from the line of Pico's body, pushing the head away. Like at some point, you got to let this go and turn. You got to recognize the limits of the position, right? Or turn him this other way, which is fine. Pushing him down. Okay. He hasn't quite gotten away, but there's not, again, pay attention to how long he's had his back along this fence line, right? Just pay attention to that. Now, this one I liked. He tries to pull him away. He can't do it. And then Boric, again, changes direction. That's fine. It's just not happening quick enough, but it's fine for right now. Boric turning his hips over. Pico, I like this part from Pico. He's still trying to get a hold of him. Again, notice, no ground and pound, no head control. Very little hand control as well. He's mostly just locked underneath his hips. For this adjustment, which I like, I thought, you know what, you're probably better off here. Let's get him off the fence. Let's take him to the middle of the cage. I actually like that idea because against the fence, there was too much finesse from Boric in that particular occasion. So then you go here a little bit fast forward. A little bit of ground and pound, foot on the hip. We always talk about that. They get the foot on the hip, you got to clear it immediately. And then he's pushing on the head. He's going to get to an elbow here, right? So he's putting all the pieces in place. Foot on the hip, pushing away on the elbow. Man, you're doing a lot when you have that, okay? That looks like nothing. It's the building blocks of the next step. Sure enough, he goes here. Boric posted on a hand. You got to take all this away immediately. The tripod is a little low. Like, look at the back angle. It needs to be much tighter and then much higher. Or you got to be in on that, okay? And watch this. He pushes away, and he just kind of bulldozes him back down. I want to pay attention to something. Look at this for a second here. Like, if you're a wrestling or jiu-jitsu student, what do you notice here? How do you control somebody on the ground? You have to control their hips and then their head or neck, right? That's the way to control them. If you have those two things controlled, they're not going anywhere. If you have a really tight side control, let's say with a gi, and you can take your pants and their pants, you can grab a hold of it and then shove them down, and you have like that God, who did that crossface on me one time? I thought my jaw was going to explode. The really nice guy out of Marcelo Garcia's who does all the Jiu-Jitsu Fanatics. He's always smiling. God, what's his name? I can't remember. If you got like a ridiculous crossface and you can control the hips, they're not going to move. Like your spine can't move. There's no crossface here. He's able to get on a hand and sit up. Like, if your game plan is to control here, you need to have those kinds of skills against an opponent who knows if that's missing, I'm going to keep doing this. Against lesser opposition, you can work on that and then build towards it, right? So there's just no control of that. Look at him. He's sitting upright, going side to side, and then he twists one side to the other and gets his hips free. All right? I mean, this keeps going. Look at this one. Takes him down. Look at this. Borics on a knee. Now, he relents here. This arm should be coming around for the crossface, and it never comes. Fine, you took half guard. This has got to come free. You have got to control. If their head is doing this and it's free, they are not controlled. They are not controlled. They're going to get to an elbow or something. In fact, let's watch what he does here. Let's see how he gets out of it, or at least challenges the position. Again, do you see any ground and pound? Very little. Again, gets to an elbow. Shocker, he got to an elbow. Why wouldn't he get to an elbow? There's nothing controlling him. Right? And then now this was nice. He came through and got the cross wrist. As a metagame, you can think, oh, I'm letting you roll to your knees. Ben Askren's the king of this, and then Khabib too. And then as they do, that's when they get their wrist control, and then they break you back down, and they begin to work you over because they like that control position where they can lean on you. Their hips are facing you. Your hips are facing the mat. It's even better control than when they're squirming off their back. They'll actually like that. So again, metagame, right? He's got that. He breaks them down here. Now, where's the ground and pound? There's just none. You could use this knee on top of this one to break it. And now, Borics is smart, and he's holding on to the hand here. Okay, but there's ways to break this. Why isn't your head in the back of the armpit to pull out and then control? Right? You create a post to stop them and then yank it out. Who does that? Khabib. And you can say, oh, well, look, comparing Aaron Pico to Khabib is not fair. Of course it's not fair. But Khabib can execute that game plan because of his extraordinary skill. So here we go. Look, do you see any ground and pound? These are all the times he was on the ground. Here we go again. He scooped the legs. That's nice. You got to rotate him around. Let's watch him. This is nice. He rotates him around, but there's no control over here, and he's got the whizzer. So what's going to happen? Let's see if he plants the left hand, which he does, and he just turns over. There's nothing controlling him. And he just scoots right out. If your game plan is to do this, you got to have tighter control. And if you're not ready for that, let's lower the opposition so you can get good at it. Because the wrestling's there. Borics couldn't stop the takedowns. The takedowns were all there. All the takedowns were there. It was being able to maximize time on the floor. Here we go, second round. He gets the takedown. Look, comes like it's nothing. Dude, the takedowns are solid. Look at that. And then crashes into him. That hurts. Where's your crossface up top? It's not there. And Borics is now right against the fence. This is what I'm talking about. Like, there's just things that are missing for this kind of a game plan. All right, he scooped one leg. If you scoop one leg and the other one's this free, look how much daylight is between them. You got to let it go and then go back and get both. Now, there's ways to do that. You don't just create a ton of space, but you recharge the effort by driving into them, ass in the air, hips into shoulder into their hips, pulling them tight, controlling them, and then re-scooping, right? It's just too loose here. And he's turning him off the side. That's fine. Again, where's the head? It's always underneath. It's never in his grill. I mean, see what I'm saying? Like, there's just nothing there. There's no real actual control. So what does Borics do? Takes his time. He's waiting. Look at him. Gets turned off of here and then uses that because no one is hand fighting him to place his hand. Right? These hands are here. No one is controlling his post arm. So from the post arm, he gets two post arm. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to go right back to the fence if he can. Now that's better. He gets the one controlling hand. Let's see what happens here. Still controlling. And again, the control is fine if you think you can just win like this, but and against lesser opposition he could, just not against Adam Borics. There's the cross face. Let's get him down. Whoop, lets it go. Turns him. Right? Gets him down. You see, there's like nothing really manipulating him. I mean, you don't have to be an expert, and certainly I'm not, but you can just look. There's just not much happening here. Scoops him, okay, and he's trying to get the gift wrap. That's something. All right. The gift wrap is nice, but can't quite get it. Right? And then he comes across. Let's see what happens. He's still scooped a little low, but his hips are turning because the bottom hands are free to post. He gets to his knees, and then we're free. And then finally, he just lets go, and you got the, flying knee. Turns again. Hands go to the mat. He stands, tight waist. Tight waist. Freeze. And then how did he set this up? He did this before. He actually likes the kind of flying knee where he can charge, not the Jeremy. So there's two kinds. There's kinds for distance, and then there's kinds for verticality. He actually likes to use both here. So, again, Pico's instinct is to what? Level change and go in. He anticipates that. Borics just throws the one knee like he's throwing like a stab knee. And by the way, this one has a million names. Shuffle knee, scissors knee, switch knee, the whole thing. He just comes in. He times him. He's like, I think he throws a kick, right? Yes, right here. Pushes him to the side. As he decides to rebound, Borics waits, pop, and then collapses him. Put the thumbnail back up. I want to show you the difference between this and Khabib. Real quickly. You get the idea. So you saw all the things missing there, right? Now, watch a master classman do this. Put it back up, please. This is the difference. And it's a significant difference. He's got the legs scooped. First of all, there's small intangibles here that might be hard to describe. It might be that his squeeze is perfect. What's the difference between a purple belt's armbar and a black belt's armbar? Maybe nothing except the most fine details. How well do they pinch their knees? How well do they bring their ankles to their rear end? How well are they good about directing the thumb to the sky or whatever? There could be all different. How good are they keeping the wrist to the chest and just all the tiny little details of finesse that may not show up on tape, but you could feel if you were there. So remember, he might have better squeeze. He might have better control. Everything might be nice and tight. Because this is sort of what he has patented as a style. Pay attention here. He's got it scooped, and he's going to go side to side and trying to get Conor's back off the fence. All right? He goes flat to the mat when he's got it scooped. But when these come out, watch how he goes into action, right? And Conor continuously gets them out, right? You're like, oh, well, look, he's not using his head here. Wait a second. He's still got him controlled. Conor gets one out. Now watch Nurmagomedov go into action here. He's going to let this go. And there he goes, right into position. Look at how high his base is and how far he is driving into Conor. Look at that. Totally different. Right? Look how glued to him he is. Deep in the pocket. Shoulder pressed into the center of the chest, down to the hips. Shoved in there. Conor is stuck. And then he scoops it again. Already. Re-scooping. Already. Turning him. Just like this. Turns him. Conor pushes on the head. Looks about the same, right? Watch what Khabib does to challenge it. Puts his head on the inside, puts his head on the outside. Lost the scoop. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to wait a second. And he's going to go back, driving into him hard. And he's going to re-scoop again, over and over and over. And he's going to try the exact same thing. Flatten him out. Let's see what he does here. Pops the head free. Now what do you think he's going to do? Let's watch. Scooting him over. Oop. Controls the hand. potentially for all kinds of reasons. Watch. Now he lets Conor have the underhook. Khabib is famous for this. Again, metagame. Lets Conor have the underhook so he can get his hands together and pin this to him. He did this against Darrell Horcher to take him flying. And so as a consequence, he can then lay him flat. Now he gets Conor a little bit on his back. What's he going to do? He's going to try to pass. Metagame. All right? Conor's still trying to get free. What does Khabib do? He goes right back to it. Scoops it again. Lays him flat. Now sits up a little bit. Keeps his head free. Why is he doing this? By the way, notice all the small pitter-pat shots as well. I want you to pay attention to this. Keep watching. Puts his head right in there. Flattens him with it. Going to get up in your face. This should be uncomfortable for the person here. Whether it's Conor McGregor or anybody else, you should be suffering if you're underneath Khabib Nurmagomedov. And he is. Punching him, right? Getting his hands to move certain places. Controlling him. Never letting his hands get too close to the mat or to push away, right? Always keeping him occupied. Pummeling on the inside there. Scooping the elbow so the hand can't come down. You see that? Look. Scooping the elbow. Constantly on the attack. Head into him. Look at the subtle differences here. And Conor's getting his feet back a little bit, right? He's got like a butterfly-ish guard. Khabib steps over the top. And then he sort of like does like a squat on top. Now he's sitting on the shins to press it into you. Like that. He's sitting on Conor here. So now Conor can't get free. Then he goes back down. What do you think he's going to do? I have a guess for you. He's going to scoop again. And he's going to turn again and again and again and again. Right? Brings the head back up. He's just constantly playing this game. Look at him. Goes to scoop again while pressing into you. And every time he's transitioning, he's flattening into you, right? People were saying, I can't believe people were like, Conor or Khabib didn't do nothing in the first round. What? What fight are y'all watching? Sitting on the shin. Look at him, sitting on the shin to do that, to collapse it a little bit. And then look how tight his knee gets. Look at this. See this from his knee? Bringing it on the inside right here. Watch this. Space, closes the space. You see that? Tight. Everything is tight like that. What's his head doing? Pushing into him. Man, this dude is just like a spider. He's just all over you, bro. All over you. And look at him pressing into him. Pulls him back out. Almost hits leg drag here. Conor gets to an elbow, which is nice. And then Khabib switches directions. Look at him. Switching directions. Constantly leans, drives. Look at him driving here off of both feet into Conor. Steps around, scoops it, pushes, right? Head on the inside, gets his hips under him, pushes, now gets Conor to basically concede the position here. He's in butterfly guard. He drops his weight to avoid being swept, right? Comes back up a little bit, and there's no threat here because his head is on. There's a lot of different mechanics here, but he's avoided being able to be lifted here. Anyway, you can put the thumbnail up. You get the idea. Look at the difference. Of course, it's not reasonable to expect Aaron Pico to be Khabib Nurmagomedov, but if you want to task somebody with a responsibility to control opposition, they need to be able to control it relative to their abilities. Conor has actually a pretty good game, but this is what Khabib does. He can do it against the very best. So the thing here is dial back the opposition. Let's get him to use a metagame. I need to see Aaron Pico convince his opponents he's doing something, and then he does the opposite rather than just, waves crashing into the shore over and over and over again. You'd be like, well, Luke, what about Khabib's metagame? He's got metagame on the ground, less so with the wrestling, but that's why his wrestling is like sub 50% for takedowns. People kind of know it's coming. He just eventually sort of forces his will. On the ground, however, a little bit different. We need to see dial back opposition, some weight class potential changes, savagery. Like it's one thing to be like against Corrales, against Ego, going crazy, and then against Borics, there's no ground and pound. Like you got to figure out exactly when to let that beast go, because there is a beast in there, and there were some other ones in there I forgot as well. The finesse control issues. So to me, Aaron Pico is still the prospect we think he is, but we need to see some changes happen if he's going to become exactly the upper bound limit of what we thought possible. Until then, I don't know what's going to happen. And that is the Monday Morning Analyst. All right. All right. Let's do this. Shall we? Ooh, that sounds overmodulated and terrible. Do I sound all right, Danny? Okay. Sounds terrible here in my headphones. Yeah. Let's do some tweets. Let's do a round of them tweets. How about that? All right. There we go. Rory has looked fresh in his stand-up, and I didn't realize how nasty his BJJ was till he out-grappled Gracie. He did not out-grapple Gracie. My question, though, is that lead leg. How do you think he does in the Lima rematch, and will he find a way to protect that leg? Let me say this one more time. He did well to nullify some of the grappling of Gracie. He did not in any way out-grapple him. Let me just be very clear about that. Gracie out-grappled him. Not enough to win the fight, but you're asking who's got better jiu-jitsu? Neiman Gracie by a mile. Okay, that lead leg. I don't know, because if you watch the first fight, Lima gave him tons of problems with it, and it's something that he has had a bit of an issue with since. I suspect Lima's going to get after it, man. Next. What's your best advice your dad ever gave you? Jesus, y'all don't even know who my dad is. How do I explain this one? Don't be a failure. That's been told to me before. Yeah, I mean, my dad's helped me a lot, don't get me wrong, but in terms of like super solid, inspiring, Hallmark card advice, he ain't the guy. Next. What exactly does Horiguchi's win mean for Bellator? It's not great for their champions to lose to other champs. Seems like it would devalue them in terms of skill. Also, since Horiguchi's only obligated to defend once per year, what does that mean for 135 pounds? Number one, you might see your first interim title in Bellator, so keep that in mind. But what does it do for Bellator? Look, Bellator took a risk, but don't you want to see them take a risk? By the way, Horiguchi is still their Bellator champ, so in some ways, they get to own the winner, and I'm using the word own here in quotations, no matter what. I actually kind of like that he's been put in that position and that these organizations took their risk. And yeah, like you would rather see Caldwell mature into the talent that he is, but they took a risk and Horiguchi came out on top, and they still get the benefit of calling him the champ and then him defending. If he doesn't defend enough, I suppose that's an issue, but I actually think this is a win for all the parties. More so for Rizin, yes, and more so for Horiguchi, but Bellator comes out of here with a little bit to hang their hat on. Next. Do you think Chael Sonnen will ever be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame? Depends on the wing. Depends on the wing. He's been around long enough to be part of the pioneer wing, which people don't realize. But I don't know. Probably they'll find a way to get him in one way or the other. Maybe through like the Anderson Silva fight or some other wing, but I suspect they will. Next. How marketable do you think Amanda Nunes and Jessica Andrade are? Felt like UFC could have made a good video package covering both for Pride 2019, but they missed the boat on that one. Outside of Brazil, how well do you think UFC can promote them? I don't know. I mean, look, the UFC has some kind of a odd posture towards Ramzan Kadyrov and his fighters. They've never answered for that. They've never explained why Kadyrov was at one of their shows and was he invited? I don't know if he was or he wasn't, or like why you're okay with signing these guys who come from a team with a guy related to these issues. That they sell shirts that say we are all fighters is a glib response to it. So like, how much do they care? I don't know, judging by their actions. But to me, selling T-shirts doesn't tell you a whole lot. Probably could be more with both of them, but probably I think it's a little bit unrealistic to expect either of them to be enormous American stars. So could they do more? Yes, but still have some tempered expectations. Next. Given the questions arising from recent fights in the UFC and Bellator, do you think it would behoove either organization to establish their own in-house development promotion? They kind of already have on the UFC side. The UFC already seems, there you go, to be trending in this way with the new PFIs and some of the other programming. Yeah, UFC, there's this New York Times article where they were like, the UFC is not investing in the future of the sport. I'm like, well, there's plenty of criticisms to make of the UFC. That ain't one of them. They do a lot to promote the next generation where, by the way, Contender Series starts tomorrow, and then Tough, and then what they're building in China and Mexico with the Performance Institutes. Like, yeah, but Bellator is different because Bellator is situated to sign people who would ordinarily be competing on the regional scene and then give them that kind of treatment. But again, I don't think they're best situated for that either. Next. With all the talk about whether Zhang deserves a title shot or not, are people overlooking the actual matchup? I don't really expect Jessica to come home with the belt. Yeah, she's competitive. She's competitive. The question is just whether she's the most deserving of the opportunity. But is Weili Zhang, actually competitive? Yes. Yes, she is. One more. And then we have to get to our next guest. How do you think Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman will do at light heavyweight, and do you think they will be a threat to Jones? I think they'll be better at light heavyweight. Luke Rockhold probably more so, but I don't know who's a threat to Jones, to be honest with you. Okay, do we have our guest? What's the deal, Mr. Segura? All right, we're still trying to get him. All right, we're still trying to find out what's going on here. You know what? In the meantime, the old Coke Zero. Delicioso. Yeah, I actually spoke to, I think I said this on the MMA Beat. I actually spoke to, God, I cannot remember names today. Ray Longo, Jesus. And Ray was definitely in favor of Chris going to 205 if for no other reason than the weight cutting. But I don't want to speak for him, but I detected a feeling that he kind of thought that that Chris was very competitive at 185. And that maybe he'll be competitive at 205 too, but that, like, absent some benefit from the weight cut, there wasn't a ton of other reason to necessarily do it. That might be true, but I also feel like part of changing weight classes is a bit of a branding opportunity, right? Where, how do I explain it? Like, it's a new lease on life. It's good for headlines. You can get the right match. Good at generating attention. If you're doing it on short notice, for example, you can just leap into the rankings a very high level. So, like, there's just a lot of reasons why it may make some sense. By the way, also, it may not be everything that they need it to be. Like, this idea that it's going to solve all the problems. It might not too, right? Like, you just don't, well, we'll have to see. I just think that Luke Rockhold, I have a little bit more sense that the 205 move will be beneficial, because I think he suffered more from the weight cuts than Chris Weidman did. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my read on things. My read is that Rockhold, like, uniquely suffered. And then as a consequence, he's benefiting more by the change, by the adjustment. So there you go. What's the word, Danny? All right, they're trying to get him. Don't know what that's all about. Lined that one up a few days ago. We'll see. Okay. All right. Well, I have to tap dance here, I suppose, right? That's the whole idea. Hope everyone had a good Father's Day. I will say, I watched, I thought that the Bellator show, I don't know why they needed to put 6 fights on the main card, but I actually thought it was pretty good. I really liked it. I like the desk that they use. I just don't know they need to go to the desk every time. I would kind of like to see it's, like, intermittently used, as opposed to, like, every single fight you go back to the desk. But I thought that the pace was pretty good. Like, it started at 10. I think they were done 12:30, or no, maybe it was closer to 1. Still, it wasn't, the pace was not terrible. And you're like, well, it shouldn't be. It was on DAZN, but some of their Paramount stuff has been like, oof, just takes forever. So I am going to be curious to see what happens with Chael, where he's commentating the show out in London, and he had that big thing on his face. Now, I suppose in a week it'll be much, much lower, but yeah, I didn't see that one coming, the retirement. That was kind of interesting. Anyway, I thought the show, Juan Archuleta looked good. The Kyoji Horiguchi fight against Darian Caldwell, I was so worried the judges were going to botch that, man. I thought for sure they were going to get that wrong, and they didn't. So I was very happy about that. And I like Darian. We had him in studio. Like, if it was a wrestling match, he won, right? He out-wrestled him. Same thing with Pico. Like, Pico out-wrestled Borics, but I don't think he got out of that what he thought he was putting in. And I explained to folks, like, how can these wrestlers think that this is a way to fight? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Like, think about all the effort Caldwell put in to control somebody. Dude, it's hard. The trick is you got to control somebody en route to advancement or en route to punishment. So in their minds, they're like, I got the takedown. He couldn't get back up for long periods of time, if at all, until the bell rang. prevented any offense from him or, meaningful offense in that time. Why am I not winning? And the answer is, okay, the takedown's the start of, what is the practical effect of the takedown? Okay, you got him down. All right, that's fine. You changed where the fight was going. That's good. Maybe the takedown itself was a nice hard slam. In this case, no, but okay, I'm thinking about those things. What's the practical effect? The practical effect is you're able to get a person to the mat / cage, and you're able to hold them there. But beyond that, there wasn't a lot of, again, the first round, he had the gift wrap and then the elbow. But after that, there just wasn't a whole lot to it. So they're measuring it by control and effort and the degree of difficulty. And by all those measurements, what Darrion Caldwell did was impressive. The problem is, in a fight, it's just a really different consideration than a wrestling match. Going back to the Pico thing, it's like you get two for the takedown, now what? Right? It just puts you in an odd position. So that's what it was. The Pico thing broke my heart a little bit. Obviously, everyone's kind of talked that one to death. The Laredo fight against Larkin Dash, I don't have much to say other than that's about what someone should look like when they're 2-0 on the way to something else. Was fine. Dylan Dennis against Max Humphrey. Dylan looked good. Again, at 2-0, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. He's fighting terribly outmatched opposition, which for now is fine. I'll get an update here. All right. Well, I don't know what happened to Kevin Lee. I guess we're going to bump up the Borics interview. That's fun. That's fun. Okay, well, let's see what happened with old Adam Borics has to say. I'll be curious to hear more about this. He looked good, man. Kid looked good. The wrestling, okay, you can't compete with the guy who's had a huge background in wrestling, but everything else, he was very competitive, as you guys saw. Detected openings and took them. How old is this kid, by the way? He's young, right? MMA. He is, let's see. His nickname is the Kid, for crying out loud. 25. 25, he's got 13 wins. Good Lord. That is an impressive amount of work that he has put into this already. So we'll get him here in just a minute. Should be good to go. They're firing him up. How are we going to get him on cell? I think we're going to get him on cell, yeah. Sorry about this, folks, but this is what happens in live programming. Shit just falls apart. It just falls apart. I mean, this show has aged me in ways I can't even explain. All right, let's go to him now. This guy had maybe the win of the whole weekend, certainly one of the best ones. Phenomenal performance against Aaron Pico. Certainly grabbed my attention. Let's go to him now. He's on the phone. The one and only Adam Borics. Hi, Adam. How are you?
Hey, man. I'm good. You?
I'm doing quite well. Well, first of all, congratulations on the win. Let me just ask you this. Did that go about like you thought it would?
Yeah.
Okay. What were you expecting?
Say again? Sorry. I didn't hear you.
What were you expecting?
Man, I told everybody I'm a finisher, and I finished him, so it was my plan.
No. From Aaron Pico, what were you expecting from him?
Oh, I know he will try to wrestling with me because he's a really good wrestler. He's a world champion, so I know it, and he's a little bit shorter than me, and maybe it was a good plan, but everybody just thought I am good on striking, but I am good on the ground. I was prepared for that, I know it. He will take me down, but I was prepared for that.
How physically strong was Aaron Pico?
I can tell you, I think I am one of the strongest guy in 145 in the world, but he was strong, he was tough. When we were on the ground, I felt I am stronger. Not done too much, but a little bit I was stronger. And when he took me down, I just saved my energy because I heard him. He was breathing so hard and he was squeezing. My legs are crazy, and I know it. He can be like this, like 3 minutes, 3 rounds.
Okay, so let's talk about the flying knee at the end. Now, you've done that before. It's something you're very good at. Why did you throw it? What did you see that made you decide, okay, I'm going to throw the flying knee?
In the second ride, I just feel like, okay, just save my energy, and when I get up, I will throw some kicks, and when he tried to take me down, I will throw the flying knee. Maybe, I don't know, you saw or not, my last flying knee knockout in Hungary, in Bellator, at the last year. It was the same. So I really like that, when against the wrestlers, the flying knee. I have been just waiting for the moment when, he was shoot me again.
Yeah, you did it in your fight against Teodor Nikolov, I believe, right? At Bellator 196?
Right.
All right, so you had said, I believe, after the fight that you think he might be better at 135 pounds. Why is that?
Because I think he is a little bit short, and maybe he is in 135. He can beat everybody because he was really, really strong, and I think maybe he can cut more. Like, I usually cut like 20 pounds, and maybe he didn't do that, or maybe we just cut, I don't know, maybe 15 or 10 pounds.
When he accepted the fight, when they made it, right? Were you thinking that he was that people were not taking you seriously enough?
Yeah, I think so. That maybe everybody was a little bit underrated me, and I was a little bit upset because everybody was just talking about him, and everybody was just like, "Oh, Pico will finish Adam like this and like this." So but it's okay. I know it already, and my team we know it. I am gonna finish him.
Now, you ended up with Henry Hooft, right?
Yeah, right.
How did that happen?
Head coach.
How did that happen?
It was crazy story. 2017, my friend called me. Hey, I will fly to Florida in the next week, and he said me, hey, come with me. And I said, oh, bro, I didn't have enough money, and that time I had a contract with the UFC, and I said like, oh, I don't want to go there because usually just somebody going from Europe to train in a States. Usually you can train only with just amateur guys the first time, and after I don't know, my friends in the US helped me, so they make it. I could train at Henry, and after with the professional team, and so I spent 3 weeks over there, and they said, hey man, you have to come back and become a world champion. And after I meet with my managers, so it was the first time when we meet in the US, and they said they will help me. So without these 2 managers, I can be here like now.
Well,
it has. Me? Sorry.
Yeah, no. Listen, your English is great. Don't worry about it. It's interesting. So, since you've been with them, how much better have you gotten?
Oh man, it's like, I don't know, 100%. I don't know. It's like double or triple. I improved a lot. So I was like just a simple striker, but I wasn't good in MMA. So I mean, my MMA skill set now, it's ready for everybody because I train with the best team in the world, in the Harnack 365, with the best coaches in the world, Greg Jones, Kami Barzini, Harry Hooft. So I can improve every day, and still I can improve every day. So when I will go back to Florida, I will just keep doing the same shit.
You know what I noticed in the fight? We had just talked about it on the show. Aaron has very good takedowns, but once he got you down, your ability to get back up, to resist control, it was very good, really good.
Yeah. I was so relaxed, I just didn't want to lose my position, just leave full, because if I just leave down, he can use some ground and pound. And I was like, okay, just be on the top, don't lose the wrist control and everything. Just keep relaxed and get up just slowly. And I didn't want to go like crazy scramble, lose my whole energy. I was just so calm, and I just do the get up.
Well, you did. It was amazing. What is how popular is MMA in Hungary?
It's not too much, but now it's crazy. I arrived just yesterday in Hungary. And damn, it's everything is crazy now. Everybody just calling me and text me. Everybody wants interview with me.
How did you get into? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when I arrived in the airport, there was a lot of fans and the TV, and I was like, holy shit, what happened here?
So are you, like, how popular are you in Hungary now?
It's getting better now. They are very proud of me, and I didn't know it. It's just every day just getting better. I see my social media is like crazy now. Like every day is just more followers, a lot of text, message, likes, shares, everything. I think now the MMA is most popular. No, it's more popular than before.
Did your family?
It was my plan. I wanted to change the Hungarian MMA. I wanted to put the Hungarian MMA on the world.
Are you trying to be like how Gustafsson is for Sweden or McGregor is for Ireland? Are you trying to do that for Hungary?
Yeah, I would like to do that.
By the way, did you
just not that way? Like, I don't want to use trash talk like Conor, and I want to stay just like who I am, just very humble and just I can say I think I am the most hard worker on the planet. I train every day like who is our training camp.
So where do you train back in Hungary?
It's crazy everywhere. The most time I did alone because here like not too much MMA club, maybe in the capital one or two, but it's like very amateur now, not like a professional. When I leave at home, usually in the morning session was like just running, lifting, bag work, and at the night I went some Thai boxing and MMA and Campo and some wrestling. But just Greco-Roman, in Hungary, the Greco-Roman is most popular than the freestyle wrestling. So, and it was so hard to find a place where I can train like a professional. So that's why I was so happy when I moved in Florida, and I was like, holy shit, I can train like a professional fighter now.
How different is Florida from Hungary?
Oh, it's much different. I am from a village where 2,000 people live, and in Florida it's the other world. So it's unbelievable. It's crazy. A lot of times I miss my country, but I have a goal, so I have to work for that.
Now, does your family watch you compete? How does that work?
Yeah, they watched. They woke up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. In Hungary time it was like 2 p.m. maybe or 3. But not just my family. It's a lot of people watch that.
Does your family because here's the thing. If you're in the United States, fighting is an unusual career, but people do it. But from Hungary, it must be very unusual.
Yeah, and my father was like very excited because if I got some injury or something, he can do nothing, and he was very scared a little bit, but I told him, hey, I will be good and don't worry about me.
Okay, so did Bellator talk to you about what they might want next from you?
Not yet. But I hope so. I will be in the tournament. I think I deserve.
You want to be in the featherweight tournament?
Right.
Would you take a spot as an alternate?
Say again?
Let's say that they can't put you in the tournament for some reason, but they can say, okay, Adam, if someone else gets injured, you can step in. Is that okay?
I know. I want to know it before, So I want to know it like 2 or 3 months before. I want to prepare like 100%. So I think I deserve that. They have to told me I need a time prepare like a good camp, because it's gonna be maybe every fight 5 rounds or something like this.
Besides Patricio Pitbull, who is the featherweight champ, and maybe even including him, do you consider where do you think you belong among the best featherweights in Bellator?
I don't know. I think I never thinking about who will be my next opponent. Maybe he's good for me or not. I am always focused on my next opponent, and I just prepare. I will beat him. So we have a lot of good fighters in my division, like A.G. McKee, Pat Curran, Patricio Pitbull, and a lot of more guys. But I think so. Nobody works harder than me. So I will be confident.
Let me ask you a couple more questions about Aaron, if I can, for just a second. Some people here are saying, his career will never recover. It's done. Do you believe that?
Mm-hmm. I don't think so, man. He's such a good guy and very talented, very technical. And people forget, but he was a wrestling world champion, and not too many people can say that about himself. And I really respect that. And he has a boxing golden gloves, and he looks very nice guy. And I just read about him. He's a hard worker too, and he's so motivation. And I was so sorry him after the fight. Because he never talked shit about me, and I really like that. I mean, just he need some rest, and maybe the hype was too much for him, because he got crazy hypes.
Did you talk to
pressure,
him?
Pressure. Maybe he was too young for the pressure.
Maybe. Did you talk to him backstage after the fight?
I tried, but he wasn't able, but I just said him, hey, you will come back, and you are a good fighter. I said just after the fight, like this.
Yeah. Well,
I text him on Instagram, hey bro, I wish you a fast recovery. You are a good fighter, and it was a pleasure to share the cage.
Well, Adam, and by the way, can you pronounce your last name for us? Is it Borics?
Yeah, you say well. You
Borics.
said like a Hungarian. Yeah.
All right. I'm an honorary Hungarian for the day. How about that? I can take that. Congratulations, Adam. Phenomenal win. Phenomenal win. You should be very proud and enjoy time at home. I guess you'll be back in Florida before no time.
Yeah, I will come back in July 18. Yeah.
All right. Very good. Congratulations. Thank you for your time, Adam.
Thank you so much.
There you go.
Bye-bye.
Adam Borics, all the way from, I guess, Budapest or wherever the hell in Hungary he is. All right, Danny, what's the deal with Mr. Lee? All right, so let's do this. They're trying to wrangle him. I don't know where he is. So for the time being, if we can't get him, maybe we can. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. Let's go to the sound off now. All right. Let's go to my friend Danny here. There he is. Bigote himself. How are you, sir?
I'm here.
Reasonably not hungover today?
No, I'm fine.
All right, very good.
I'm good. I actually had a good sleep last night.
I did too. Whenever I come up to New York, my wife takes the full shift of the kid. And my kid is 7 weeks old Saturday. Last 3 nights, has slept through the night, bro. Can you believe it? And I know the doctors are like, wake them up so they can eat every 3 hours. Bro, no. She'll just get an extra few ounces on all the other meals. I'm not doing that.
That's good. Yeah.
So if there's any doctor watching, go F yourself. I'm not fixing it. But you had a good weekend, yes?
Yeah, good weekend. Just super busy, obviously, covering Bellator 222.
Let me ask you, I thought that the pacing was pretty good.
I thought it was a great event.
Yeah.
Again, I saw it in...
Oh, you were there?
Yeah,
you were
there.
Okay. So it's different for you. But...
I didn't see it through DAZN. But I thought the fights themselves were really good. The quality was pretty good. The crowd seemed into it. It was a good night for Bellator.
All right, very good. So let's do this. How were the calls, my friend?
Very good. Calls were very good.
All right, I'm excited to hear it. So why don't you just take it away? You lead the ship here, Maestro.
All right, let's do it. Well, a lot of storylines coming out of Bellator 222, but I think the following is the biggest. You tell me.
Okay.
Lukey, Jake from Oregon, calling on a somber matter. The great Chael Sonnen retires, undefeated, holder of multiple titles in multiple weight classes, admired across not just our nation but the world. What's your thoughts on it? Will MMA as a sport recover, and if so, how long will it take? Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. The greatest of all time.
Yes, certainly. He is.
Heard he tapped Tito Ortiz.
Yes. What is Chael's legacy? Boy, it's a complicated one.
It's very.
He is something of an overachiever. He is a guy, I think the way I think about him, Danny, I don't know about you, I think of him as somebody who maximized every opportunity imaginable with every tool in the tool shed, whether that was timing, whether that was his outright ability, whether that was his ability to sell a fight and promote and become a certain kind of character. I think you have to include the fact that also through performance-enhancing drugs. So some of these are by illicit, some of these are by illicit means, but either way, in the end, he ended up being incredibly adored. Although for a time he was not. Folks, I remember a time in MMA when he was very polarizing, but not so much the case anymore. But to me, that's who he is. He is a guy that tried to find every rung on the ladder to get to the top. And I don't think he got quite as far as he wanted to. But all you can ever ask is that somebody just wrings the sponge dry, and he did.
Yeah. I think his legacy is that you can be a very, very successful fighter, one of the most successful fighters in MMA without earning a title, without earning a world title.
That's interesting.
I think he
that's cold comfort for them, though.
He's been the main event of every card he's fought in for the last, or at least, one
top
two, or at least co-main event, but definitely like one of the bigger fights on the card. He always fought the best. If you just go down his resume, it's ridiculous the competition that he fought. He never got a step down in competition, never refused to fight. And he became a star in the sport. And I think, he did all that without ever holding a title. And I think that's important. I think, your brand, the way you present yourself, the way you carry yourself, it can take you pretty far in this sport. You don't necessarily need the title to be successful.
You know, people always talk about Vitor as the poster child for TRT and then what subsequently happened. Here's my theory on this, because this is true. And I'm not going to go on some rant, so just hear me out for a second. I'm just trying to make an honest point. The entire history of anti-doping is tied to media backlash and hysteria in terms of the growth of organizations and the development of ideas. So like WADA came out when there was a pushback. All kinds of international organizations were created when the media piled on some kind of scandal. Anyway, TRT was our scandal, and it was when there was pushback to it that UFC decided to go with USADA. A big part of that is what Sonnen did, where these guys were like, I need this to compete, I need this to live, I need this for health. And, you know, let's be honest, everyone was kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. They didn't really need it, but they were claiming that they needed it. Anyway, a big part of the reason why we have USADA, it's not strictly, of course, Sonnen's issue. There's all kinds of guys using it. But I would actually argue he was a pretty big reason in terms of media visibility for why the media turned on it, and then we now have our current situation. So
yeah, he was also one of the very few people that have managed to turn their career around from that type of situation and deal with you know, the backlash from the media, backlash from the fans, because, you know, when was the last time you, like, these kind of things got brought up as far as, like, you know, failing drug tests and whatnot in his career? Like, I feel like that kind of got put in. Let
me tell you something. Every other MMA fighter who's failed a drug test, virtually, and I could name them, they get real bitter when you bring it up. Chael was open and honest about it, and I think the fans were like, okay, we forgive you. Exactly. There's a bunch of other jabronis right now who I could name. I've mentioned them before about failing drug tests, and then I've had a couple of them confront me about it. I'm like, what do you want me to do? You want me to not mention the fact that there's a fact of your existence that you failed drug? I'm as sympathetic as anybody about you failing a drug test, and you want to get in my grill about it? Okay.
Chael was so upfront about it is that you didn't even need to ask him about it. He'd bring it up himself, you know, and he was always very honest as far as, you know, that matter went. And I feel like, you know, that's part of why it never got really brought up again, because he answered all the questions.
You know what's I've never
once you do that, then what else is there to, you know, bring up?
Last thing I'll say about this, I would love to know what Anderson Silva and John Jones think about him.
Yeah,
I would love to know. Not that their version is the correct version or that our version is the correct version, but I would like to hear theirs, because the MMA media is kind of like, oh, Uncle Chael, elder statesman. That's fine. I don't really have a problem with it, but they might have a different one. I don't know. I'd like to hear it.
Yeah. I also wonder how much success, you know, is attributed to the backlash, because, like, John Jones is a champion right now. Let's say Chael Sonnen would have been destroying everybody and just ruled over Bellator. I wonder if these things would have came up again. Or is it because he had a couple setbacks and maybe people kind of, I don't know, discarded? I don't know.
I just remember when he got fired from Fox Sports when all the tests came back positive. And to look at him now, it's like, what an incredible image rehabilitation.
He's at ESPN. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So, all right, there you go.
All right, let's talk about one of the major title fights that went down at Bellator 222.
This is Joe out of South Florida. Regarding Rory McDonald, do we think that the fight against John Fitch, he was just having a bad mental night, bad camp, because he looked pretty good against Neiman Gracie? What are your thoughts? Let me know, guys.
You go first, Danny.
You know what? I think you were very skeptic of Rory McDonald entering this fight. You're very skeptical of where he was at mentally, because, like,
still am, by the way.
Yeah, but I mean, me watching that fight, that looked like a world-class fighter out there. And Neiman Gracie, undefeated, the dude's no joke. And it was one thing if, you know, Rory McDonald managed to stuff his takedowns and then it was just a stand-up battle and he won there. You go, okay, well, we know that Gracie, although a very complete fighter, that's not where he shines best. But Gracie took him to the ground, mounted him at one point, and Roy was able to fight that off. He got dragged into the deep waters. He got dragged into literally the worst position you can be with a Gracie, that is mounted. And he survived.
Back,
yeah. Well, I think he did have his back at one point. Yeah.
Did he have both hooks?
Times. I think at one point he did. Okay. Yeah. And he was able to fight off. And look, he's not the same Rory McDonald in the sense of, like, he's this angry guy that's out there to, you know, sort of like this beast. But the one we have now is still pretty darn good, man. World-class fighter. And I don't think.
By the way, I predicted him to win, just so everyone knows. Like, I asked to make a pick, I picked him. It wasn't like I thought he wasn't going to win.
Yeah, I don't think he needs the rage to to be as good as he can be.
Let me see how that goes against Douglas Lima the second time.
Yeah.
That's going to be the true test. So I'll say this. You're right. Against most opposition, I'll dial back a little bit of my skepticism because he definitely looked like a guy in command, didn't panic, worked. You could see him working through solutions.
Wanted to win.
Yep, wanting to win. All great signs. But there wasn't a lot of physical damage that he took. And that's been the one thing I've been wondering about in the Mousasi fight, and more in particular the Stephen Thompson and then really the Lawler fight. What happens if Douglas Lima puts it on him, physically puts it on him?
Yeah.
Will he then have the will to continue back? The answer is, listen to what I'm saying. I am not saying no, but I feel like I need to see it before I believe it.
So you're saying no?
No, I'm saying I don't know. What's wrong with saying I don't know?
I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
I'm kidding.
I'm just, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know
we
what's
don't
going to
know.
happen.
We don't know. That's the reality. But
because Lima's gotten. Let me ask you this:
Yeah.
you watched the first Lima and McDonald fight, right?
I did. Yeah.
Close, but I thought you could make a case for Lima, but I thought Rory won.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Lima put it on him a little bit there.
Yeah. I mean, going into that, final round, it was kind of up in the air a little bit.
And what was the key about that? He had to dig deep. Rory did, and he did. Credit to him. But I think Lima's gotten better since then.
He has.
So now it's an interesting question.
Very interesting, yeah. I guess we'll wait and see what happens, but nonetheless, I do think this is a hurdle that he passed. I feel like
yes, I agree with that.
I'm a lot more confident in him entering a fight now than before.
He's not frail, and he's not fragile. He's tough as nails and smart, and still obviously very good. I just want to see what happens when somebody physically puts it on him. Can he rally like he did in other occasions? That's what I want to see. That's it.
We'll find out.
He looked good. You're right.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the other title fight that went down on that card.
Hey, Luke. Hey, Danny. Hope you're doing well. My name is Nick. I'm recording this in Gothenburg, Sweden. Big fan of the show. And I just want to know your opinion on two statements regarding the Bellator fight between Kyoji Horiguchi and Darrion Caldwell. I couldn't help to think that it wasn't so much Horiguchi who won the fight, even though I feel he's the rightful winner. It was more Caldwell who lost the fight.
That's interesting.
I felt he was doing quite well on the feet, and just holding Horiguchi down didn't really do him any favors. Is that fair to say, or am I seeing this the wrong way? And the second statement is, does this win make Horiguchi the greatest Japanese fighter of all time? Love to hear an answer to those two statements. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
I feel like this guy works at NPR or something.
Yeah.
That voice.
Coming to you live from our WAMU 88.5 stations. I would say, second question, he's pretty clearly the best Japanese fighter of all time. Now, I don't think he's the most important or celebrated. That would clearly belong to...
He's got 2 belts.
Right. So that would clearly... Well, yeah, but I'm saying like how do you weigh a Hidehiko Yoshida, a gold medalist from judo, like these incredibly important people who also fought in Pride, or Kazushi Sakuraba, who, was part of the Kekutogi boom and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of different pieces there.
I mean, Sakuraba was a superstar. Kid Yamamoto was a superstar.
For people who don't know, imagine Hulk Hogan in his prime in terms of popularity, and imagine that dude also fought MMA. That's what Kazushi Sakuraba is.
We're not talking about greatest where those kind of things are.
Correct. We're talking about best Japanese.
Best.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah,
I think so.
Best.
I mean, dude, think about it. For a time, you had
still got plenty of life left.
Dude, I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
These guys at American Top Team, they're like, you don't even understand how good this guy is. Dude, he's fast and he's smart. He makes quick. Like, it's one thing to be physically quick, and it's another one to make quick decisions that your body can act on.
He's clever.
Did he look tired in the 5th round? Even a little bit.
Nope.
Nothing.
And I think it's big that he's coming up from flyweight because there was a clear size advantage between him and Darrion Caldwell. And I feel like that's, not having to kill his body to 135 definitely attributes to his cardio.
Yeah, I agree with that, certainly. In any event, so he's definitely the best one. In terms of, like, Caldwell losing the fight, yeah, man, like I talked about, I wonder how you felt. Like, I think what Caldwell was telling himself was, well, Kyoji's not doing anything while I'm down there, and I'm the one who put him there.
Yeah.
So in the end, that has to count for something. But practically, it does count for something. It's just not enough. Not enough. And honestly, I got to say this about Darrion Caldwell. I really like the guy. If you ever watched him wrestle in college, he was just a phenom. I'm not seeing enough development in his game, man. I need to see another step up in the striking. I need to see another step up in the guard passing and in the ground and pound.
Ground and pound, yeah.
It's just not enough.
Yeah, that was a weird fight. I was watching it. I was also, tweeting, and I was doing a few other things for work. So I wasn't catching, I wasn't just solely focused on the fight. And I think I tweeted something from the MMA Fighting account like, "Oh, I think Horiguchi needs a finish here entering this last round."
Get torched?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. But looking back now, like, it was clear who was in control. Caldwell was dictating where the fight was at, but Horiguchi was the one that was always on attack. And I think ultimately that's what won him the fight. And yeah, I think with Caldwell, he was in positions to win the fight. He just, for example, just stood there and, I mean, not stood there, but just kind of just controlled them and held them there and just took elbows and punches. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think, some things that get interesting as far as like the grappling, like sure. But like the ground and pound was there. I don't know why he just didn't activate it. It'd be a good question to ask.
It's hard to control and to throw at the same time. It takes a master.
But I mean, he had him pinned. Like his legs were pinned. I felt like he was in
if
a
his
pretty
back
good
is up
position.
against the fence, it's going to be hard to do.
Yeah.
It's going to be very hard to, at least meaningful ground and pound.
But watching that fight, weren't you glad a little bit? And I'm not saying I'm glad that Darren lost, but I'm glad that the judges saw the fight the way they saw it.
Oh, for sure.
Because it says something about sort of the development in the sport and the way we're like analyzing it. Because it was clear that Horiguchi was the one trying to do the most damage and doing the most damage in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was tweeting before like, oh, these judges are going to mess this up because I just knew that they were, and they didn't. And I was like, and Douglas Crosby was one of the judges. I was like, oh, Douglas is about to give us the old okie doke here, but he didn't. So in the end, you're right. But I still believe, I don't know if you agree with this, but maybe you do or you don't. If that fight had been judged under one or pride rules, where the fight is judged as a whole, Kyoji would have been the easy winner.
Yeah.
I sweated it because of the 10-9 must system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the top control, because it usually means a lot for some judges.
North American ones.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's discuss Aaron Pico's loss against Adam Borics.
All right, let's hear it.
That was a weird one, man.
Hey, Luke and Danny. This is Anna from Queens. There were a lot of
Shouts out
awesome
to
Bellator
Queens.
fights Friday night, but I have to ask about Aaron Pico. Scott Coker said he's not giving up on Pico. I was just wondering what you think is actually next for him. All right. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Bye.
They better give him somebody they pulled off of bum fights. They better give him somebody he can absolutely demolish. Like, look, that's a setup. That's called building talent. That's how, folks, that is how the sausage is made. You take somebody who's got some promise and you give him somebody who probably doesn't. Adam Borics clearly has promise. They were giving him a guy from
he's undefeated.
From an elite camp.
Yeah.
Who made that call? Who made that call? I cannot believe they agreed to that.
Yeah. And I asked him that. I asked him, I'm like, do you not want to be babied into this career? Like, why are you taking all these tough fights? And Aaron Pico gave me an interesting answer that I kind of wasn't expecting. He's like, yo, it's, talk to the matchmakers. But then he went on to say, like, look, I know for a fact they're offering these type of fights to people my experience level, and they're not taking it. They offer those fights with me against very experienced people, and they're not even taking it. So like, what makes you think a guy that's like 1-2 or 2-3 or whatever is going to take a fight with me? And I think that brings up an interesting point. But there's got to be a way, man. There's got to be a way to get these people to fight him.
There's a guy on the regional scene.
Look, Dylan Dennis is a really good fighter in the sense of like his jiu-jitsu background. Like, he's super legit as far as that goes, and he's getting fights.
Yeah. Here's the deal.
I know
it's
they're
not
two different fighters.
They don't want to fight him ... at a certain price. Now, maybe you don't want to overpay. I do not believe for a second that they can't find the right talent to fight him, even for a moderate price. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sure. Listen, I am not saying people don't turn him down. I don't believe you. You ever seen that the GIF with Will Ferrell? I don't believe you. Yeah. That's me. I don't believe you. I don't believe that. I'm not saying that Aaron's not telling the truth. He probably is. Again, people I'm certain are turning down fights. Yeah. That's not a reason to give him Adam Borics. Yeah. Because look at the alternative. This is better. This is what you wanted. A guy who has all the ability in the world and is sitting at 4-3. This is the optimal outcome. Clearly it's not.
It's a very frustrating thing to watch, because if you look at any fighter that's, 6-7 fights into their career, there's a clear difference between Aaron Pico and somebody that has that many fights. Aaron Pico's really, really good. You just watch any of his fights, even in defeats, like he's doing some things that a lot of people that would have his record wouldn't be able to do. It's just he's doing it against guys that are so experienced. Like what Adam Borics did, that flying knee, a guy that's 5 fights in is not going to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? So you're exposing Aaron Pico to things that he's never seen before, and he's frankly not ready for. Not because he's not good, because he's inexperienced. So he should be fighting guys that are, close to his record. And it is frustrating because most of the comments that I see online is just like, nah, he's overrated. Media hyped him up. He's got no chin. He's not what you thought.
Media did hype him up.
Yeah, of course, but for a reason. I mean, look at his record. Look at what he did to Leandro Higo. You know what I'm saying? But he clearly needs to step down in competition.
I got to tell you, the thing that people keep doing, like, oh, he's got no chin as the explanation. Dude,
you take that shot.
Dude, these guys take bombs, and then the reaction is that they can't take a shot.
Yeah,
not that one. Yes.
A flying knee, sure.
Yes. Yes, they can't take a Moab straight to the jaw. Yes, you're right. They cannot.
Are you kidding me? He didn't survive a flying knee? Like, what's wrong with
It's like, dude, like, are y'all, like, this is not. And then, remember, they said the same thing with Sage, and then it turns out Sage had his whole shit broken. And they were like, "Oh, right, like maybe that's not there." Yeah, dude,
it's kind of a hard punch. Yeah.
Well, then even I went back and I watched the Corrales fight just to make sure. Dude, he was standing there trading, and Corrales was going to the right side, and Pico wasn't addressing it at all. And I don't even think noticed it was coming. If you take a shot that you don't see coming, it's going to hurt in a really bad way.
Yeah.
Am I saying he's got the world's best chin? Maybe not that necessarily. But like,
by no means a weak chin.
Right, yeah. But is this the reason why he's losing? Because he just can't take any. I've seen guys who can't take punishment. It's very different. It's very different. I don't mean to besmirch him, but one of the guys who was like this was a guy by the name of Jonathan Goulet. Jonathan Goulet was a French-Canadian UFC fighter for a time.
Some of the
very talented, very talented martial artist. The ability to take a shot was not one of his better things. And yes, is he Nogueira? Is Aaron Pico Nogueira? Okay, he's not Nogueira, but this idea, like, well, he just can't get it right. Again, I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very frustrating situation. I would like to see him take some time off, stay at Jackson Wings, because I did see a difference in game planning.
Sure.
I feel like strategy-wise, he came in there. He was fighting a lot smarter.
Still, there's another level to this.
But yeah.
The metagame thing, where he's just doing the same thing over and over again. He needs to, like, make people react and think and get confused. You know who's really good at that? Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen is extremely good about making you look this way and then the shot comes this way. He's very, very gifted at that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about his opponent. I feel like most of the talk leaving that matchup was about Aaron Pico, but let's not forget the winner, the guy who we just had on the show.
Hi, this is Mark Bolabash calling from Budapest. Bellator 222 saw Aaron Pico matched up against Adam Borics with a lead-up that shunned the Hungarian almost completely, and actually Aaron Pico as well. Honestly, what's your take on Boric's ability and about the height he can ascend to in his division? Was his win a fluke, or how you thought it would go? Thanks again for doing a great job, and come visit Budapest someday.
Yeah, for sure. Buy me a ticket, homie.
Okay. First of all, that guy had to be a pro broadcaster, right?
Yeah, that quality.
That was ridiculous.
Quality, yeah. It's probably better quality than our show.
It certainly is. Okay, so was his win a fluke? Absolutely not. I just went through and showed you, like, every small hole that Pico was leaving, it wasn't like, oh, you're like, well, Pico didn't control enough, so therefore Borics got out. You have to recognize the opening, and then you have to recognize what to do about it. If you think, like, for example, if I took someone off the street and I had a blue or a purple belt control them, that blue and the purple belt is not going to have the same kind of control as, let's say, the recent UFC signee, Rodolfo Vieira. They're going to miss things. They're not going to have as tight control. Is that person off the street going to know what to do? They're just going to sit there and get destroyed by some purple belt. They're going to get mounted and then choked out or whatever, arm broken. Right, but that doesn't mean you had the exact same level of control. There was a dip there. So my point being is, yes, there might have been some pieces to Pico's game missing in the application, but Borics recognized all of them and reacted to all of them. Now, had there been someone like Khabib on top of him, maybe it would have been a bit of a different story. But I thought he actually looked really good. And again, he's had multiple flying knee KOs at this point, so that's not an accident either. He's good.
Very good, yeah. And and he's only 25, man, and he's at a great camp. I think he could be like something big for Bellator in the next couple of years.
25 years old is nothing.
Nothing.
Healthy, Oh man. And I wonder how big it can be. Have you ever been to Budapest?
Never.
Very good things. Budapest. I've heard it's nice. I've heard it's really
travel.
nice. Their democracy's having a little trouble with old Viktor Orban, but yeah, no, I there's nothing fluky about it. Now, how good is he relative to the top of that division? I don't know. I would love to see him in the tournament. I think it'd be great if he was there.
Yeah,
so.
that'd be pretty sick. He's also pretty big. Like if
you saw him in person,
compared to Pico, he was a lot bigger. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Pico is how big would you say for 145 on the small side?
It was weird because we're about like the same size as far as like, obviously he's a lot more muscular than I am. But he is. In case you didn't know,
I find that very surprising.
As far as like body frame, like we're about the same height. That was sort of like the same size in that regard. And when I talked to him, he seemed a little parched. He seemed he was having trouble with the weight cut. So
Borics?
I don't know. No. Pico.
Oh, Pico.
Yeah. So it was kind of weird because it's like, I feel like you should be making this kind of not comfortably, but
Right. Borics was cutting 20 pounds. He said.
Yeah. Borics seemed like the fresher fighter, but I don't know. It was weird.
All right. Want to do a couple more of these?
Yeah. Let's do it. So something interesting that came out of that whole fight week was, first of all, just the cross promotion in general, and then Scott Coker had a few things to say. So let's discuss that.
Hey, Luke, Danny, Nino from Washington Township, New Jersey. How you doing? I had a question here for you. So recently, Scott Coker has come out in an interview and said that he wouldn't be opposed to a Bellator versus UFC event.
Yeah, it's a nothing headline.
I was just wondering who would be your top pick for a main event? What would be the most interesting fight, and your guys' opinion, for a Bellator fighter and a UFC fighter? Thank you. Love your show. Want to know what you think about this.
All right. By the way.
Yep.
Scott Coker being like, yeah, I would love to do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like me being like, yeah, I would love to win the lottery. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love. You know what I mean? I'd love to be a movie star. I'd like to do a lot of things. It's just not going to happen. So
you never know.
It's not going to happen. You think they're going to?
Conor fought Floyd Mayweather.
Okay. You want to bet everything I own it doesn't happen in my lifetime? Well, sure. I'll bet you this way. As long as Dana White's at the UFC, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's the issue.
Yeah.
Now, if he leaves, who knows? Fantasy matchup. That's an interesting one. I would say, Pitbull versus Patricio Pitbull versus Max Holloway is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, fun one.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I think with the whole
champ, right?
Yeah, with the whole bantamweight conversation, why not? Cejudo, Horiguchi.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
I think the winner there, you could easily say they're the best.
By the way, Horiguchi could win that one too, bro.
Yeah,
don't think he couldn't.
And the winner there is the best bantamweight at the moment.
Yeah, easy. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
That'd be a great one. That's a really great one. Wow.
Yeah, that'd be it. Also, are you curious for Ryan Bader's DC? I kind of am.
No. That one seems fairly straightforward to me. No?
I would favor DC heavily, but I feel much different about this matchup now than when Bader was in the UFC.
Sure. But Bader's got his hands full with Lyoto. Do you think he beats Lyoto in the rematch? That's the big one.
That's another question that they asked. So
is it? Okay.
That for later on.
All right.
What else?
Do we have any update on Kevin Lee?
He hasn't replied, which is
sweet.
Usually he's great with with getting back to people, but I don't know. He hasn't gone back to me. So I guess let's just give it a few more minutes and see what's up.
All right, that's fun.
Yeah.
Sick start to my Monday, brah.
What can you
Bro,
do,
I've been in this business since 2006.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Look at me now. I got a studio show. How much bigger does my career need to get before this doesn't happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, because it always happens at every level. And look, maybe it could be some kind of miscommunications. I'm sure it's totally innocuous. I love Kevin Lee. But I'm just saying, like, how many times, like what I got to do? I got to be, I got to be a show on NBC or something. I got to have the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
I wonder. You got real quiet when I asked that question. Why is that?
Huh? No, nothing.
Why can't we ask these questions out? How can we ask these questions out loud?
It's a weird thing. I don't know why.
It's like herding cats with these fighters, man.
Yeah, it's weird. And I mean, Kevin, as I said, like Kevin's never flaky or anything like that. Like
Kevin's great. I'm sure it's some kind of misunderstanding. I'm just saying, it's just I just keep wondering how I escalate through the levels, and that aspect of trying to get fighters on your show never changes. It never changes. So it's just a fact of existence. All right, let's do some more calls.
All right. Speaking of Cejudo and the bantamweight division, this was a bit of an interesting question. For me, it's an easy answer, but I don't know if you feel any different. So here goes.
Hey, Luke. This is D Money from South Riding, Virginia.
D Money.
Chantilly. I just wanted to know your opinion on who had a better win streak, Henry Cejudo or Dustin Poirier. I don't really have a take, but let me know your thoughts.
I'd say Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
But that's a tough one.
Really?
By the way, he's from Chantilly, old Drab Tilly. People know about Drab Tilly in D.C. God. All right, so look.
I don't think it's
that Moraes win.
Question.
That Moraes win is unbelievable, and it's probably better than any of the wins that Dustin has. But he asked about the win streak.
Yep.
So the DJ fight, you can make a case he didn't lose.
Mm-hmm.
The Cejudo,
or he lost.
Sorry, that he lost.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people think DJ won.
Yeah, it was close.
Then you have the one against TJ, which was impressive but short, so it's hard exactly what to know. So those two is interesting. The Moraes fight is just like the most legit. Again, I don't think Dustin has one as legit as that. But in beating Pettis and then stopping him, and then stopping Gaethje, and then Alvarez, and then now this with Holloway, to me that's a better 4-fight body of work.
Yep.
To be honest.
Yep, I agree. I think if you look at individual fights, like dude, beating Demetrius Johnson, especially at that moment in his career, that was big. You know, beating TJ Dillashaw is big. But if you actually string those together, because Cejudo also has, and I'm not trying to be like disparaging, but Cejudo also has wins over Sergio Pettis, who's a very good fighter, Wilson Hayes, who's a very good fighter. But I mean, Dustin Poirier, you just go down the line and it's just studs, back to back. So for me, it's Dustin Poirier.
But I will say that Cejudo win over Moraes,
it's big.
That is so goddamn impressive.
Yeah.
So impressive.
A weight class above too.
It's ridiculous.
Poirier is staying out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I know what you mean. But to beat Moraes the way he did, that was extremely impressive. Extremely impressive. So that one win is better, but everything else, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Next.
All right, well, you brought it up, so Bader Machida. Let's see what's up.
Hey, Luke and Danny. This is Jordan the Jank calling from Gainesville, Florida. It's been a
Shouts
while
out to
since I've
Gainesville.
called. Hope you guys are doing well. My
So
question
Florida?
is,
Florida?
how do you guys feel about Machida against Bader? Is it a wash? I personally feel like it's just not a good matchup kind of at all, I feel like, for Lyoto, and he is one of my absolute favorite fighters. It's not easy to say this. I'm just trying to be honest about it. How do you guys feel? Thanks, guys.
Do you understand what he means by that? Lyoto knocked him out in the first one.
Yeah, I know, but he feels like Lyoto
Is older now?
and
Bader's much better?
We've seen him lose before, after that Bader fight. I'll tell you right now. So he lost to Phil Davis, he lost to Chris Weidman, then he had that bad losing streak of Rockhold, Yoel Romero, Derek Brunson, and then since he hasn't lost. So I do feel like when Bader fought Machida, that might have been prime Machida.
Yeah, look, I'd probably favor Bader at this point, but Machida's still pretty crafty. He's pretty smart. He's preserved himself.
Against Sonnen, he looked really good. I don't know if it came across to you the same way on TV or the Zone, the streaming app.
In what way?
But I feel like he looked better than that was his best performance in like the last 3-4 years. Like he was quick. I mean, maybe it's something about the opponent as well, but he looked really good, man. Machida's far from washed.
I thought he looked great. I think Bader's a different cookie than Chael.
Of course.
Obviously, he can wrestle, but for folks who didn't pay attention, since that Rashad fight, Bader has showed incredible striking. Remember, he didn't take a single punch in the entire heavyweight Grand Prix. I mean, it's ridiculous what he can do, but he can still wrestle as well.
Yep.
And I think he's physically stronger than Machida. So it's an interesting matchup, but I don't have existential dread or something for Machida's chances. I think
Machida can pull it off. Why not?
Yeah, I just probably favor Bader.
Yeah.
But do you think Bader's going to go in there and just mop the floor with him? Maybe he does. But that's not like I don't know. It's not like Dylan Dance versus Max Humphrey. Where you're like, how much punishment is Max going to take before they call it a day? I don't quite see it like that.
No, not at all. I think it's pretty competitive, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Lotto picks up a win there. But I'd favor Bader slightly. But look, Machida's very elusive. Dude, those flying knees against Sonnen. When have we seen him throw flying knees like that in his career? I don't remember.
I'm sure he has. I can't.
Really?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I felt like that was a bit of a new.
By the way, there's this name. If I don't mention it on air, I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. It's the guy I talked about who was from Marcelo Garcia's, who's so nice, from BJJ Fanatics. Do you know who I'm talking about? God, what is his name?
Mateus Dinsin? Is it that
No, not Mateus Diniz. God,
Diniz?
Bernardo Faria. Bernardo Faria. That's the guy. Bernardo Faria. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
He one time showed me how to do shoulder pressure maybe 5 years ago.
It's deadly, man.
Bro, I thought my jaw was going to go shooting out of my face. It was so painful. And he looked at me. You guys know Bernardo Faria. He's bald. He's a multiple-time black belt world champion. He always smiles. He never stops smiling. And he looked at me after, my jaw seriously hurt. I was in tremendous pain. And he lets go, and I was like, that was really bad. He's like, yeah, man, if it doesn't hurt, you're not doing it right. And just kept on smiling. Like, he was so happy about it. So that's when I talk about, you got to control Bamas like that, you know? There you go. Sorry. Bernardo Faria. Bernardo Faria.
But, hey, I'm all in for Machida Bader. By the way, what weight class would you rather have Machida fight for the belt in? Middleweight or light heavy? Do you have a preference?
Well, I guess if he's fighting Bader, he's fighting.
I'm more intrigued in Machida Bader than Machida.
Yeah, I guess light heavy, but I guess I guess light heavy.
Yeah.
And then Musasi has a title fight this coming weekend against Rafael Lovato, right?
Yeah,
So
that's gonna be a good one too.
All right, let's do one more, and then I guess if Kevin Lee's not here, we can just go and commit ritual suicide.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Yep.
All right, I'll let you pick. Let's see. We got. What do you think is the most useful, successful martial art in MMA? What happens if Poirier wins? Home Nunes breakdown.
Let's do Poirier.
All right.
Hi, this is David from Tampa. I was wondering if, in an alternate universe, if Dustin Poirier beats Khabib, do you think Conor tries to fight Dustin or still goes after Khabib?
So here's my thought on that.
First of all, no alternate universe. I think the odds are not in favor of Poirier, but I think he could potentially pull it off.
Bro, anybody who thinks that Poirier has no chance to win,
you're crazy.
Again, Khabib is your rightful favorite. Fine.
Yes.
I very much take seriously Dustin Poirier's ability.
He's a threat.
You'd be foolish not to. So, I think that Khabib gets an immediate rematch. He'd be losing his title. He'd be losing his title in the first defeat of his career. There's no way they don't run that back. And
really?
Yeah, and here's the thing.
You don't think Conor can sneak in there and then Conor might like his chances against Poirier, keeping in mind that he has a win over him, and then if he does win, then you can potentially get a Poirier Khabib 2 or McGregor Khabib 2.
I have a feeling that if Dustin wins, it's not going to be one of those things where he stops all the takedowns and then just knuckles him into the dirt.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that it's going to be back and forth with Khabib controlling him and getting into advantageous spots and really hurting Dustin finding a way to hang on and then rocking him, and this going on for round after round, in which case either guy would be able to claim, with a few adjustments, I can go and win this, versus let's just say Dustin went in there and just obliterated him, made him look like an amateur. Well, then you could say, all right, well, there's no, in the case for Stipe versus DC, my whole point about this was, yes, the fame element didn't work in your favor because you explicitly rejected it. But more to the point, the fight was signed in January. You had an entire season Ultimate Fighter. You fought in July or June or July, whatever it was, 6-7 months later, and you got beat inside a round. What is the case for a rematch? There is none. You can make another one outside of it, winningest fighter in the division as the champion. But inside what happened in that octagon, there is no case for a rematch at all.
Yeah.
Okay? So imagine he does something like that. Then the Conor sweepstakes get a little bit more interesting. But I have a feeling that even if Dustin wins, Khabib's going to take a pound of flesh from him no matter what.
Yeah, I think so too. It's got to be a back and forth. I mean, it's always possible that Khabib just gets starched, but I don't think so. I think Poirier, and I think Poirier knows that. I think, entering the Gaethje fight, he said something like, I know I'm going to leave a piece of myself in there. I feel like he probably feels the same way about it with the Khabib fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's call that a day. So we are officially on the no Kevin Lee interview bandwagon here?
Yeah, I mean, no reply.
No reply? That's so unlike him.
I know, very, very weird.
I wonder what happened there. See if you can figure that out and let me know, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
I hope everything's okay. That's what I...
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much. More calls. Keep sending to Danny. By the way, they can email you. You heard him. The MMA Hour at voxmedia.com. Keep calling 844-866-2468. Sorry about some of the programming changes. We appreciate you guys watching. And until next time, stay frosty.